Oops, I can't turn on my video or even edit the background. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Let me check the settings.
I'll do it again, okay?
Thank you.
Same thing, no options.
Yes, council member, when you join, it doesn't show that you have a video. It only shows your mic.
Okay. I use this for everything, so I don't know what to say.
Maybe that's the way you'll be participating this evening, right?
Councilmember Wahab, sometimes if you restart your computer, situation will be resolved. It will take a couple of minutes.
Okay, so I will log off again and let's hope.
We are live, Mayor. Please go ahead. Yes.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome
Recording in progress.
Yes, we know that. Recording is in progress, and welcome to this meeting of the Hayward City Council. And so I am going to call this meeting to order, and I will ask Councilmember Lamnon, who is here in council chambers with us, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'd be honored. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, everyone. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Good evening. Councilmember Andrews.
Present.
Councilmember Lamnon.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Marquez.
Present.
Councilmember Salinas. I believe Councilmember Salinas is absent this evening.
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab.
Here.
Councilmember Cermeño.
Here and ready to go.
Thank you. Mayor Halliday.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to the closed session announcement, which is that we had no closed session this evening, so there is no announcement. That brings us to public comments. This is your opportunity to comment on anything that is not otherwise on our agenda this evening. And before we start, let me just announce that one item that was on our agenda this evening, item number 6, an appeal of the, a public hearing on an appeal of the Planning Commission denial of a new 116,000 square foot industrial building on Point Eden Way. We are not going to hear that item this evening. That has been continued at the request of the applicant to December 14th. And so with that, I will call for public comments. Do you want to make an announcement, Madam City Clerk, about how people could do that if they're not here in the chambers, which would be everyone, since we don't have any audience in the chambers this evening? But go ahead. And there you see the slide.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Thank you. So community members wishing to join the meeting via Zoom can follow the information on the first page of the agenda, which is also displayed on the screen right now. City Council members and members of the public participating by Zoom and wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature, which I'm showing it also. So, and members participating via teleconference wishing to speak should dial *9. In-person participants, I know right now we don't have anyone, but if someone wants to wish to speak, they could scan the QR code located in the back of the room and complete the online speaker card, and I will add their names to the list of members wishing to speak. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And with that, I still do not see any hands raised from Zoom attendees. Are you aware or getting any calls from anyone who wishes to speak under public comments?
I'm not aware, Mayor.
All right, then I'm going to go ahead and close public comments, although I do now see a hand. No, I don't yet. Okay, I'm going to close public comments, and we'll move on to comments from our city manager this evening. Madam City Manager?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a couple of quick announcements from the library. As you know, and we unveiled Kirby, our new bookmobile, last weekend, and his, her, I don't know, gender-neutral bookmobile services started today, and so we're very excited to have Kirby out in the community. You can find out where Kirby is stopping at the library's website, on the city's website, so please keep an eye on that schedule. I also wanted to let everyone know that we have invited the VA Mobile Medical Outreach Team to Hayward, and they will be facilitating free exams, consultation, and referrals for veterans. They will be in the Eden Youth and Family Center parking lot at 680 West Tennyson Road, and that is on Thursday, November 4th from 10 to 2, and that is a collaboration between the Public Library, Eden Youth and Family Center, and the Veterans Connect at the Library program. And lastly, there will be a Friends of the Library book sale on Saturday, November 6th from 9 to 1 at Heritage Plaza, if you want to jump on your holiday shopping. Speaking of shopping, I think I mentioned the Economic Development Program's gift card promotion, which you can find on the city's website, where with certain participating Hayward businesses, if you buy a certain amount in a gift card, the city, using its federal stimulus dollars, will add money to that gift card, so you basically get additional shopping dollars for free. So please take advantage of that shopping program. And I did mention our annual compost giveaway that happened last Saturday morning as well, while we were all unveiling Kirby. And I'll just say that we gave away 3,500 bags of compost, which is 1,000 bags more than the year before. And so actually ran out of compost in the last 15 minutes of the event, but obviously a very popular event in the community, and one that we will be holding again. And you'll hear more about compost this evening as we talk about SB 1383. So that is all from me this evening.
Yes, thank you for that. In light of the item we will be hearing later, I think that's good that we got rid of a lot of that compost this week. Councilmember Zermania?
Well, speaking of compost, this Friday I'm going to be touring the StopWaste.org compost farm over in Livermore. So it's very interesting out there. So thank you for that note, and thank you for giving our compost. If out there in TV land, please compost your front yard and your backyard. Thank you.
Thank you. And we got some welcome rain to help, along with the compost, to help things grow. So that is all good news. With that, seeing no other hands raised from my council members or anyone else, we're going to now move on to our action items this evening. And that's items 1 through 5. And I'll just ask if, Councilmember Wahab, you have your hand up?
I just wanted to move the consent items.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, and I will assume, since I don't see any other hands raised, either from those members attending on Zoom or the ones here, that anyone wanted to pull any items off of the consent calendar. Again, that's items 1 through 5, and I'll just ask our very few attendees in the attendee, is there any item you want to pull off of here before we vote? And seeing no hands raised, we will go ahead and vote on that motion by Councilmember Wahab, seconded by Councilmember Zermania, to approve items 1 through 5. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Andrews.
Aye.
Councilmember Lamnin.
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Salinas, absent. Councilmember Wahab.
Yes.
Councilmember Cermeño.
Aye.
Mayor Halliday.
Yes, and the motion passes with 6 aye votes and 1 member absent. So now we will move on. As I said earlier, item number 6 has now been rescheduled at the request of the applicant to December 14th. So we will be moving past that item and going right on to item number 7, which is regarding the implementation of Senate Bill 1383. That is regarding the countywide ordinance to comply with that bill, having to do with waste disposal and short-lived climate pollutants. So with that, I will turn this over. I believe he should be on to Public Works Director Ameri.
Yes, thank you, Madam
He's
Mayor,
online.
council members. Good evening. Jeff Crump, our solid waste program manager, is here to present the item. Jeff?
Mayor, council members, Let me see if I can share my screen here to get the PowerPoint going. There, does that look all right?
Yes, we can
Yeah.
see that. Mhm.
Okay, so I'm going to provide a report on a new countywide ordinance called the Organics Reduction and Recycling Ordinance, and that ordinance enforces Senate Bill 1383. Senate Bill 1383 is a state law that aims to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by reducing the amount of organics that get sent to landfill. And when food waste and yard trimmings get buried in a landfill, they create methane, which is a very powerful greenhouse gas. SB 1383 requires jurisdictions to enact a local ordinance to enforce SB 1383, and that's what this countywide ordinance is meant to do. The Waste Management Authority developed the countywide ordinance to help Alameda County jurisdictions ensure they comply with Cali Recycle regulations and to create consistency across jurisdictional borders within Alameda County. But in order for the ordinance to be effective, jurisdictions must opt into the ordinance. This slide shows when the Hayward Sustainability Committee has heard reports on SB 1383. The first time was in July of 2019. And in May of this year, the Sustainability Committee received an update on 1383, as well as a review of the Organics Reduction and Recycling Ordinance, the countywide ordinance. And then on September 13th, the committee received another update on the ordinance, as well as the opt-in ordinance. And also on September 13th, the committee recommended that council adopt the countywide ordinance. Just a little background on SB 1383. It's the most significant recycling law in California in the past 30 years. It has very ambitious goals and a lot of extensive requirements that it puts on jurisdictions. Its main goal is to reduce the amount of organics sent to landfill by 75% compared to 2014 numbers. It wants to do that by 2025. And there's also an edible food recovery requirement where they want to recover 20% of edible food that had previously been disposed of, according to 2014 numbers. And that also is the goal is to accomplish that by 2025. By January 1st of 2022, jurisdictions are required to adopt an ordinance to enforce SB 1383. The slide shows some of the major requirements of SB 1383. All businesses and residents need to sort organics. There's the edible food recovery system needs to be set up. There's extensive reporting requirements for jurisdictions. There's education and outreach mandates. Jurisdictions are required to procure organic products. That's essentially compost and mulch. There's standardized cart colors that are going to be enforced throughout the state, where recycling carts have to be blue, trash carts have to be gray or black, and organics carts green. There's also enforcement requirements and requirements for monitoring for contamination. These next few slides, I'll go into a little more detail on those requirements. As for all businesses and residents needing to sort organics, Hayward's already been doing this since 2012. Most Hayward businesses and residents are already sorting organics. And SB 1383 allows waivers for certain businesses that don't generate a significant amount of organics or that have space constraints. The edible food recovery system, the bill splits the major food generators into two tiers, tier 1 and tier 2, where tier 1 is grocery stores or large generators like food manufacturers. Tier 2 is large restaurants, hotels, large events. And the tier 1 generators enforcement will start in 2022. The tier 2 generators enforcement will start in 2024. And Stop Waste has been coordinating the county's efforts to get the edible food recovery system set up. And they've been working very closely with the Alameda County Community Food Bank, as well as the Alameda County Department of Environmental Health, which is going to conduct the majority of the enforcement on the edible food recovery requirement. And the Department of Health is already working really closely with most of these entities anyway. There's also extensive reporting requirements where Stop Waste can help us in gathering information to report to the state, and our hauler waste management will also help with that effort. With the education and outreach requirements, there's annual requirements, and we've already started some outreach. Hayward staff sent out letters to all businesses in Hayward in October, letting them know that SB 1383 is coming. And Stop Waste is currently sending out letters in October to give them a second notice to let them know that this extensive law is coming around the corner. And the procuring of organic materials, compost and mulch, that is based on a jurisdiction's population, and a rough estimate of Hayward's requirement would be 13,000 tons of compost or mulch or some combination every year. And staff estimates that cost to purchase the mulch as well as transport it and disperse it would be somewhere between $650,000 and $1 million. And we're working with Stop Waste to determine ways to distribute and use the compost. And just to give you an idea of how much compost that is, it would be roughly 50 20-pound bags for each single-family home in Hayward. Here's the cart colors. Like I mentioned, recycling carts are going to have to be blue, trash black or gray, organics green. And the only cart that Hayward has that meets that is the organics cart currently. And Hayward staff is in the process of negotiating a new franchise agreement with Waste Management. And we're working with them to have the cost of these carts spread out over 10 years. And Waste Management is also looking into having to see if they can find a way to reuse or recycle the carts that Hayward will no longer need. And have enforcement here. I'd mentioned that Stop Waste and the Department of Health will help out with enforcement. There's also a requirement for monitoring contamination, and to avoid the hassle and cost of having to flip lids throughout the city. As part of our franchise agreement talks with Waste Management, we're looking at implementing a system that Waste Management has where they have cameras on their trucks that can view the material as it's dumped into the truck, and they could tell if there's some contamination. And SB 1383 requires there be some fines or surcharges for contamination. And if we went with the Waste Management truck system, we would start the surcharges in late 2022. And the countywide ordinance would start surcharges mainly for commercial customers in 2024. So the new countywide ordinance, the Organics Reduction Recycling Ordinance, or the ORO, will replace the mandatory recycling ordinance, which has been in place since 2012. And the two ordinances has a lot of similarities. They both have inspections for contamination, fines for non-compliance, and waivers for businesses that don't generate a significant amount of material or space constraints. And the countywide ordinance also has some enforcement flexibility. The specific roles can be determined a little later, whether it's the city, the county, or the Department of Health performing certain enforcement aspects. And the compliance is phased in. So in order for the countywide ordinance to be effective, jurisdictions need to opt into the ordinance. And if Hayward decided not to opt into the ordinance, Hayward would need to quickly draft, enact, and enforce its own ordinance, comply with CalRecycle regulations. And staff does not recommend trying to create our own ordinance. This slide shows the timeline that the Waste Management Authority used to create the countywide ordinance. It was adopted in July of 2021, and the deadline for jurisdictions to adopt an opt-in ordinance to meet CalRecycle's deadline of January 1st would be December of 2021. So the next steps would be, upon direction from council, staff will coordinate a second reading of the countywide SB 1383 ordinance, known as the ORO, and work with the county to execute an MOU, perform additional outreach. So after comments and questions, staff's recommendation is that council adopts two resolutions, one introducing the opt-in ordinance and another authorizing an MOU with the County of Health Department to perform enforcement. With that, we can take questions.
Okay, thank you. And so I see that council member, okay, I'm going to go to Councilmember Marquez first, has her hand up on Zoom, and then I'll come back to you, Councilmember Zermino.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Kemp, for your presentation. Can you just elaborate on the composting goals? I know you indicated some high numbers, and I think that was basically determined based off our population size, but can you just go over that again, please?
So it's a calculation of 0.08 tons per person. And with Hayward, it's like 12,800 tons. So I just rounded it up to 13. So that's statewide based as the calculation. And it could be a combination of compost or mulch. There's also some renewable fuel that can be purchased, but those opportunity to do that is few and far between. So the real options for Hayward are to do compost or mulch.
Okay, and then historically, I don't think we did a compost giveaway during the height of COVID. So pre-COVID, would we do a compost giveaway like twice a year? What was kind of our standard practice?
Yes, we get 5,000 bags a year and give it out in 2 events, usually one in the spring and one in the fall with 2,500 bags per event. And then the contract allows us, if we don't use them, to accumulate the bags and use them in the future. So over the pandemic, when we didn't have giveaways for a couple of years there, we've built up a stash of bags.
And then do we ever offer an opportunity for community members to come and pick them up from the Corp Yard, or is it strictly giveaway?
We do strictly give away. We don't have much space at the Corp Yard, although we're open to new suggestions with this law having us needing to give away so much more.
Okay, and then can you give us a sense of how many other cities have signed on? I know the goal is for it to be effective in January, but are all other cities on track to adopt this resolution?
I think there's only 2 jurisdictions in Alameda County that aren't adopting this very resolution, but they're going to develop a very similar one. I don't know the specifics why, but the ordinance that they're adopting will almost look just like this.
Okay, and then this is being led by Stop Waste, is that correct?
Yes.
And every city in Alameda County participates in that group?
Yes. Plus
Special districts, I
the
think.
county itself, like the unincorporated part of the county.
Okay, those are all my questions for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Councilmember Zermano.
Jeff, thank you for the report. Good job. Let's see. How are we feeling about being able to meet the 1383 requirements?
The procurement of the compost and mulch is going to be a challenge, but we're working with Stop Waste to come up with creative ways where Hayward could purchase some compost and maybe have it put on farmland instead of used right in the city. That's the main concern.
Okay, all right. And if we have extra compost, do we have areas in Hayward where we can compost and lay our compost around, or is that not a possibility?
No, that's a possibility, but the amount of space in Hayward isn't enough to meet the requirement that the state is asking.
Okay. All right. Waste management is being positive about this?
Yes, we're not the only jurisdiction that's coming to them with requests around this law, and they've been very open to suggestions and how we might be able to work with them to help meet the requirements.
Good. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Andrews?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your presentation, and I want to know if it's a burden on staff to have the compost given away more than twice a year, and if it's possible to partner with Keep Hayward Clean and Green events as a possibility for locations or times when we give away compost.
It would be possible, I guess, depending on where the Keep Hayward Clean and Green event is and the amount of compost that we would try to give away. And as for a burden on staff, the 2 times a year have not been a burden. I think 3 wouldn't be a burden. And frankly, on my side of the staff, we're not doing too much. The maintenance services guys are loading the cars, and I know they enjoy the opportunity for overtime. But I would be concerned that our core fans of the compost giveaway, if we try to do it too many times, we may not have such a high level of participation if we try to have it over 4 times a year.
I see. Because I know it would help, possibly help with attendance for Keep Hayward Clean and Green. So you don't think it's an all year long thing that people would want to obtain compost? Because I'm just
Some,
curious.
some people, but the large
Okay.
amounts, the huge attendance we have at these events may wane. And we know, I could be wrong, we may want to try it and see.
Councilmember Andrews, we can definitely look into that and see if we can coordinate with the task force.
Okay. And then I know that at schools, they give away these little stickers to put on the waste bins inside the school. And it's like the size of the trash can in your bathroom or in your bedroom. Is there a possibility that that is being looked into as part of the outreach and education?
To give out pails to collect the compost?
No, not yeah. Well, I know you give out pails because I've seen that at events, but like stickers that people can put on their wastebasket because people get so confused on how to sort trash.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes. In fact, Stop Waste is working on a whole bunch of different outreach to help implement this ordinance, and I'm sure that's part of it.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Wahab.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, are we able to use any part of SkyWest?
For the compost, to spread it out there?
Mhm.
I would think so.
Well, that, as Councilmember Wahab, as you know, that that acreage is going through a process for future development, hopefully soon. So it is not going to be available long term for that kind of a use.
Okay, what about the open space area? There's 3 sections, right? One was for airport usage and hangars. The other was for potential corporate development. And the third was potentially open space.
Are you referring to the section that is related to the airport open space directly north of the airport runways?
The SkyWest section. So I don't have the map in front of me, but
Okay, so the western section is slated for commercial industrial development. The middle section has to be kept clear of everything.
Yeah.
And the eastern portion is for recreational development and also, some spaces dedicated to hangars. There may be some possibility there, but I don't think that the volume is going to be enough to satisfy even 1 year of compost laydown.
okay. I think one of the things that we could potentially do, and I wanted to hear from you, talking to Hard.
Absolutely. Yes, that's a very good suggestion, good possibility. We'll talk to them and see how much of the compost they can accept.
Okay.
We can do that.
If I'm saying anything else, because I know it's question section, but go ahead. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any, Councilmember Lamnon? Actually, just to follow up on that, I think that I thought Councilmember Wahab was referring to that airport runway, the runway protection area, which is a big chunk of SkyWest in the middle where we really aren't going to be able to do much, but we probably are going to grow some kind of ground cover. So I just, that occurred to me too. I was just going to ask although I realize what you said was maybe, but it won't really take a lot of compost.
The entire section there is 36 acres. We need to take a look and see how much it can take. And we also have to look into the environmental impacts because it is next to residential and see if there is any potential impact on residential uses next door.
Okay, thanks. Councilmember Lamnon.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, thank you to staff's work on this. I hear positive comments about our environmental services and waste team all the time. So thank you guys. And cheers to Stop Waste as well. Thank you, Francisco, for representing us there. Questions. So I'll just follow up on the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem's questions about the use of compost, and my other colleagues as well. I had that same question both about the airport runoff, the partnership with HARD, but also HUSD and New Haven Unified, and even Stonebray. and wondering about the idea of having it available all year long, like we kind of do the sandbags. So that's been already asked, so I won't pause for an answer on that right now. But I will ask for an answer about renewable gas. Seem to be one of the components for using this bio waste, and I think that's used at the water treatment facility. Is that right? And does that count, or for biofuel for like the fire? I think one of our fire engines is biofuel. Does any of that add to the volume or decrease the amount of volume of compost that we need?
For the renewable fuel, it needs to be derived from material that otherwise would have gone to landfill.
Oh, I
And
gotcha.
at the
So
water
new.
pollution control plant, we would have to start taking in new food waste and driving gas from that to get the credit for the fuel that's being used.
Which in theory we would be if more of it is being diverted to
Yeah.
green bins at least. I wonder if there's like a baseline. I don't know if it's enough, but okay. And then in terms of the ordinance, do I read it correctly that it's not necessarily, as the ordinance is written, doesn't necessarily require the new carts right away? It could even be stickers or new lids. I know.
Correct.
That's correct? Okay.
Correct. Yeah, the lids could be the three colors that they're supposed to be. And the implementation citywide of all the new colors, it doesn't have to happen until 2036.
Great. And there's nothing that speeds up that timeline in the new ordinance, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Councilmember Lamnen,
Yes.
some of our cars are already old, and they need to be replaced sometime during the course of the next 10 years. So what we are doing with the new franchise agreement is implement something that our carts are going to be replaced without a big impact on rates. These carts will have to be replaced. We have talked to Waste Management. They are talking about some supply issues if we decide to go slowly and replace some of the carts, little by little. They want all of the carts. They suggest that all of the carts to be replaced at one time in order to create less confusion, to have uniform carts everywhere with the implementation of the new agreement. I think that what we are negotiating with them allows us to do that without creating a big impact on the rates for our customers.
So I appreciate that information, and as I said last week, I have some concerns about that, but I'll save those for the comment period. The last question I had was, is there conversation yet about a franchise cost or a franchise fee for food recovery like we do for recyclables? I know Stop Waste has been meeting with food recovery nonprofits in addition to the food bank, but is there a status update on that?
We have not had any discussions about a franchise fee on that for Hayward.
Okay. Thank you. I'll save the rest for comment time. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Let me ask, you mentioned the staff was looking at potential use biosolids because we already have been, basically just drying them out, right? And that we need to, that staff was looking around for uses that would meet the requirements of the law for biosolids. Any ideas on that yet?
Mayor Halliday, if I may take that. Right now, we produce Class A biosolids. Not a lot of wastewater agencies have the ability to do that. In Hayward, we produce that. What we have done so far is that we send that the Class A biosolids to Waste Management, to the landfill, Altamont landfill. Not only the landfill accepts the biosolids, but it is considered a beneficial use. It's used as alternative daily cover to cover the garbage that is placed in the landfill. By doing that, that 4,000 or so tons that goes to the landfill every year doesn't even count against us as tonnage that is sent to the landfill. beginning now with SB 1383, that tonnage is counting against the city as landfill. It has lost the status as alternative daily cover because it is organic matter. And in the future, in the near future, the law doesn't allow that to be placed in a landfill because the potential to produce methane gas. So we have to find a different way of getting, disposing our Class A biosolids, some sort of land application somewhere, or working with waste management to do it. And that's one of the consequences of the new law.
So you're saying that even though this is a beneficial thing that the landfills want to cover for purposes of
Covering the trash, yes.
just covering the trash, they won't be allowed to do that anymore?
Right now, they are able to do it, but the 4,000 tons is counting against us as garbage. So that affects our diversion rate right away by several percentage points. In the future, in next couple of years, we are not even going to be allowed to take that biosolids to the landfill. We'll have to take it somewhere else.
And the landfill will not be able to cover their trash with?
They would have to use soil or something that doesn't produce methane gas.
Okay, I guess I was then going to ask if the state is going to be providing funds to subsidize the costs they are generating here. Is there anything in the law to provide that, or any talk in the legislature that you know of, any laws that we could lobby for to get some funding out there to cover some of the costs that, this is agencies throughout the state are going to be feeling this.
Yes, we are not aware of anything like that at this point. You're absolutely right. Cities like Hayward are in a good position because we've been doing some of the requirements of SB 1383 for a number of years, but there are cities that haven't done much, and now they are facing all these new requirements all at once.
So we'll have to do some lobbying. And I think finally, I wanted to ask, on the color of the cards, it seems like right now our recycling carts are not blue as will be required under the new law, but they're like dark gray or black. Could they be used for that is the color that they want for the regular trash, right?
Right. But unfortunately, they are too big, too large for that. A small segment of our population uses the larger carts for trash, but the standard size is 32 gallons, not 64 gallons.
Okay. All right, just asking about ideas there. So with that, I don't see any other questions from any of my council members. Wait a minute. Council members, so did you have another question, or did you want to?
After the public comments.
Right. All right. So we will now move on to public comment on this item. And there are no members of the public present here, and I am not seeing that any of our attendees online have their hands raised. So opening public comments, giving people time to raise their hands, find that raise hand feature if they want. No one seems to be availing themselves. So I'll close public comments and move on to entertaining a motion and comments from council. Councilmember Zermania. And I want to thank you, Councilmember Zermania, for representing us at Stop Waste, which actually did develop the model for this ordinance.
It's a very good organization. I'm having a good time with it because we are actually trying to be green and greener than we already are, and that's excellent. So I really enjoy my time there, something that's very close to my heart. And in the staff report, Jeff and Alex, pages 4 and 5, you point out what Waste Management is willing to work with us on in order to meet the 1383 requirements. So I'm glad that you listed them. Those are very, very important. And all of this is to reduce the amount of organic and recyclables that goes to landfills. So there's something that really should benefit our whole community of Alameda County, and then of course eventually California. And I agree with President Biden that we are going to be doing this extensively and productively. So, and with that, I'm very happy to move on the 2 resolutions, I believe there were, Jeff?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Oh.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, by the way, I also need to thank Sarah colleague Lamden, because she was the one who recommended me to the stopwaste.org a couple of years ago.
All right, and with the motion made by Councilmember Zermania, Councilmember Lamden, your hand is up.
So I'll second the motion. I'll second the motion. And then also wanted to add a little bit of commentary because we're talking about the 1383 and a little bit of the waste management. Anyway, let me just say my stuff without a preview. So I am concerned about the cost of the carts, and I absolutely hear and appreciate the staff's work and Stop Waste's work about spreading out that and not having it be a huge cost. But I also think that that is not a priority right now. We do have time for that, and pardon the pun, but I'm not usually a fan of kicking the can. But in this case, these cans, I'm happy to kick. And, you know, if we really need to do lids, if we really need to do stickers, fine. Certainly, as Director Mary pointed out, cans do wear out, and so any new cans certainly should meet the color scheme. But I really would love to see us not spend the money on the cans right now, and instead, we really need to look at a franchise fee for the food recovery, just like we do with the recycling. If that is where 20% of at least of greenhouse gases is coming from, if the priority is addressing hunger as well as reducing greenhouse gases, the only way to make that happen in a substantive way is to have a funding stream for it. Right now, it's a piecemeal thing. There are a couple nonprofits who have found, maybe 3-4 of them in Alameda County, that have found a way to fund it, but none of that is sustainable. But they've proven that it's a proof of concept. And so having it built into the franchise fee, I think, is the way to make sure that we can meet the requirements, both the spirit of the law to do the green work that Councilmember Zermania is pointing out, and the text of the law. And so I urge just to pull back from the can conversation and put that energy into a food recovery conversation. And with that, I'll stop. Thank you.
Okay.
Was that a friendly amendment or in any way?
I don't know that it needs to be, but I'm happy to make it one if the staff needs concrete direction. But it's not part of the ordinance, so I didn't make it in that way.
That would be something that would come up in our further negotiations with Waste Management, which we are in right now on the new contract, right?
Right.
So.
The item is going to come before you in the next few weeks, and you will have the opportunity to direct us to do, that if the council wishes to do that. That item is really not on the agenda tonight.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Wahab.
Thank you, Mayor. I really appreciate this. It just, keeps pushing to our efforts to be more green, if you will. But I do suggest that we speak to hard ones to expand kind of some of the scope of work that they do I've talked to a couple of HARD members, and I know that they want to partner more with the city of Hayward on different efforts. I think that this would be a great partnership for them. They may also have some space that, we probably are not even thinking about. So as much as possible, if we can reach out to HARD as well. Other than that, I genuinely do support this. I appreciate all the work, and thank you to the council members that are serving.
Okay, thank you. So I will be joining in supporting this motion because we really don't have any choice. But I think that a lot of good suggestions were made this evening, and a lot of this will be further discussed as we go on with the negotiations. Oh, my goodness. I just see that. Councilmember Andrews, your hand is up. Go ahead.
In fairness, Mayor, I just raised it, so just wanted to thank staff for their presentation, but also want us to really look at the Keep Hayward Clean and Green events as outreach. If we can't give away compost, so if we can have some materials for us to put at stations, because we do get a lot of residents who have the same interest of cleaning up, but also compost. And then also really think about other strategies to get the information out to people, especially if fines are involved. We're going to need a lot of education prior. So go out to churches, or at least have information for churches, the malls, the shopping centers, Starbucks. I mean, people get confused even putting their debris away at Starbucks. So I do think that we should look at where people are at in order to educate them. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for that reminder, too. I think that is an excellent suggestion about finding more, well, first of all, exploring the possibility of whether we can give compost out at Keep Hayward Clean and Green events. But, and I would add to that, just maybe if we could somehow have it available on demand, by arrange for pickup of the person who wants it at somewhere at the courtyard or something like that. If we, I don't know where we're going to be keeping all of this compost, but it would be nice to look for ways like that to expand availability rather than just the couple of giveaways a year that people could call up and say, I'd like to pick some up, and there could be an arrangement for having it available someplace where they could do that. So, with that, and seeing no other hands raised either here in the chambers or on Zoom, I will call for the vote to support the staff recommendation on these two resolutions that we're approving. The motion made by Councilmember Zermania, seconded by Councilmember Lamnin. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Andrews.
Aye.
Councilmember Lamnin.
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Salinas, absent. Councilmember Wahab.
Yes.
Councilmember Cermeño.
Aye.
Mayor Halliday.
Yes, and the motion passes with 6 aye votes and 1 member absent. And so with that, we're going to move on to council reports and announcements. So if anyone wants to make one, I'm not seeing any hands raised at the moment. Councilmember Lamnin?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick redistricting update that the state has updated their visualizations. These visualizations are sort of like a rough draft. They're a way to capture people's communities of interest data that you've already put in, and a way to sort of represent them without them being a formal draft map. So the state has updated both the congressional, the Senate, state Senate, and the state assembly districts. So feel free to look at those at We Draw the Lines, California. And then the Alameda County has now released them. They just released them at about 6 o'clock this evening, and hopefully will be on their website soon. If you're having trouble finding any of that, happy to help. Thanks.
All right, thank you for that information. Seeing Councilmember Zermeño, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Colleague Lamner and I sit on a committee with AC Transit, two of their board members. This past week, I was given a tour of the AC Transit training facility over on Mack Street in our industrial sector of West Hayward. A very impressive company, quite a few employees, very well managed, and actually very, very green. They're about to introduce all-electric buses. They have some hybrid buses at the moment. And so it's, if I encourage you to take a bus, if you're able to. They are connecting our industrial area. One of the good news is that they will be reconnecting Chabot to South Hayward BART with one single line. So they listened to the committee, the bus riding committee. So if you have an opportunity, ride a AC Transit. By the way, they're looking for chauffeurs. So if you are looking for a job, go over and check them out. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Not seeing that anyone else has any announcements. And so, zeroing in on record, a meeting within record time. We, 7:53, yes, that's a pretty record time. We will not be meeting next week on November 9th, so our next regular meeting of the Hayward City Council will be 2 weeks from now at 7 p.m. on November 16th. And with that, not missing anything here, I don't think, we are adjourned.
Good night. Thank you.
Recording stopped.